Hi, my name is Yasu from Japan, and in my video, I introduce Japanese sake in both English and Japanese, and on top of that, I talk something about Japan in English. But let me introduce today's sake. I'm drinking this sake from Niigata prefectures in Japan. The sake brewery's name is abeshuzo. The name of the sake is actually the same thing, abe. They use the rice for this sake. It's called takanenishiki, and this is actually my first time to drink sake made by this rice takanenishiki, and this is junmaiginjo, and then it's a raw sake. And as you can see, it's a spring. It's like a pink color uh, bottle design. It shows that it's a spring sake. So let's see how this is gonna taste like. And then personally, I love abe sake. It's really good, not so strong, and it's very sweet and then mellow. And I also always I drink sake with my special Japanese sake glass, which is from Kagami crystal. So cheers. First of all, you smell. Very sweet, soft. Okay, I always say this one, the calpical smell, and then the flavor is calpical flavor. It has a very distinctive the afterwards taste. It's really mellow, but little bit sparkling taste on my tongue afterwards. It's really good. I can taste the flavor of the rice, which is really enjoyable. I think in Japanese, I must say I can taste okome no umami, like some kind of the flavor of the rice. This is good. It's like if you are already in Japan or you ever visit Japan, I recommend you to try this sake abe from abeshuzo, niigata. If you go to the Ginza, there is a department called Ginza 6, and then at the Ginza 6 there is a sake store called Imadeya. This is a seasonal sake, so by the time you go to Imadeya, I'm not sure if they have this abe, but I hope there is other kinds of abe. And if you ever wonder how you might want to consider experience Japanese culture, or do you want to try Japanese sake, then I recommend you to try this or abe. So on top of that, let me just talk about what's going on in Japan right now. It's already spring, April, so I want to give you guys the updates in English about the home loan, the housing loan. So every month, the banks and those institutions updates the financing options and the interest rate that they offered to everyone in Japan. So as of now, it's already April, so it has been updated, and this is the intake. So there are basically two major financing options in Japan. One of them is called Flat 35, which is actually majorly used by a lot of Japanese people and also the foreigners with permanent residency visa. And you can borrow the money to buy a home for as long as 35 years, and interest rate is completely fixed for the entire 35 years. The interest rate in this April, the lowest that you can get is 1.44%, which is actually up from March this year, because the March it was 1.43%. And then some people might wonder, it's not that big deal. It's right now is 1.44% from 1.43%. However, this is a big deal because if the interest goes out, your borrowing power or my borrowing power becomes weaker, which means we can borrow less money to buy more cheaper priced properties. And at the same time, if the interest goes up, it would become much harder for more people to get approved on the money that they actually want to borrow to buy property. So that's why you might really need to keep watching out these informations, because if the interest rate continues to go up in Japan, less people can borrow sufficient amount of money to buy property, and then in the end it might actually cause situations that people cannot really borrow enough money to buy property. That means the price needs to be dropped, but it has not really happened that way yet, because interest rate is still 1.44%, which is really low. Because for example, in the US it's like around like 3 something percent, and by the end of this year most likely it's gonna hit 4%, which is really crazy. But in Japan it's only 1.44%. Or like, let's say that you don't want to use flat 35, and you use how home loan from the those regular bank in Japan. Like for example, like the biggest bank in Japan is like Mitsubishi UFJ, and if you're okay that you use floating rate with home loan, then the interest rate will be 0 point, I think, 475%. It's still really low, but inflation is really happening. To fight with inflations, most of the central banks in most of the countries, they need to increase the interest rate. Japan, they don't want to increase the interest rate. That's why it's still they've been really trying so hard to keep it low as much as possible. But the world economy is interconnected. Japan can do only so much. So let's see how it goes. So in my video, I drink and I get drunk and introduce Japanese sake, but at the same time, I provide you guys information about Japan in English. So if you can subscribe to my channel, I really appreciate. And if there is anything that you want to know, like Japanese economy, or like the populations, or let's say there is sake that you think is really good, and please leave a comment so that I'm gonna actually look for it and then buy it and then make a video in both Japanese and English to let you guys know how the sake would taste to me. So I hope to see you in my next video. So for now, じゃあね。